how would you deal with rejection from a woman? Not a breakup, but simply just her choosing to go date someone else instead of me. Thank you, guys.
Do her best friend. Whoa.
I had like 2 seconds where I was actually going to try to think of like a real answer, and then Dusty just fuck her best friend.
Yeah, that was a real answer for Dusty.
Hey everybody, welcome to It's Just Bodybuilding. Now I think this is episode 180, but Scott does funny things with how he puts these out, so I'm not sure.
Could be 181. Who knows?
We'll
see.
Of course, we've got Dusty Hanshaw, my co-host, and Scott McNally, our producer, on the line as always. And I want to remind you all to like, share, subscribe, and comment.
Ring the bell.
Yes.
Ring the bell. There you go, Dusty. And what else we got going? Oh, yeah. Mutant, of course, major sponsor of the show. Where's the chest? There's the chest. And then there's the hat. Yeah. So Mutant, go on IamMutant.com and use our code Dusty20 or BigRon20.
You put Dusty first.
And put Dusty first. Put Dusty first.
Fucking giver.
People need to realize, Dusty, that to a certain extent, your money is my money and my money is your money, since we always buy each other dinner and we don't ever pay attention to how much the bill is. And
just roll with it.
So I have, let's talk about this to start with, because I had this conversation the other day with someone. So yes. I noticed that younger people don't split bills. Like older people do, don't cover bills like older people do. Younger people always want to split everything. Have you noticed that? Yeah. Okay. And older people are like guys like me and Dusty, like my close buddies. We're like, oh, I got this one.
Yeah.
And then you just assume that he'll get the next one, and if you forget, you just
start over.
Coin and just start over, and it all comes out in the wash, because if you're really good friends, you're going to be having lunch here and there, blah, 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 and it just all comes out in the wash. And, I like my training partner and I, we always take turns buying stuff, and hey, you might get lucky, and it's Wendy's this time, and the bill's, $40, and you throw it on your card. And then the next time you go out to eat, it's, you're at a steakhouse and the bill's like $140, and it's the other guy's turn to pay. And it's like, hey, that's just how the cookie crumbles, buddy. Right? And it all comes out in the wash. Yeah. Yeah. So Dusty and I, that's the type of friends we are, where we just, hey, did you pay for the last one? Yeah, I think I did. Okay, I'll pay for this one. And it doesn't matter if it's the McDonald's stop or the fucking Brazilian steakhouse stop. It's your turn. So you just buck up and suck up and pay it. And I think, now the viewers can correct me, this is where we'll get the feedback.
Yeah.
See, Scott? I'm engaging the audience.
Well, it's good, too, because we learn stuff and we stay in touch with what's going on.
I want to know. I want to know, and maybe it's a regional thing or a generational thing, but who splits bills with their really good friends? Obviously, if you're like eating with a group of people you don't really know or whatever, that's different. But, when you're going out with your really good friends, like your training partner or your best buddy, do you take turns paying the bill? Do you even look at the bill? Do you give a shit what the bill is? Like, how do people treat the bill? I'm kind of curious.
I have a follow-up question for our audience. How many of you feel awkward if somebody else says, hey, I'm going to get the bill? Like, I would rather be the guy, even if I didn't have a lot of money. Like, no matter what stage of my economic life I was in, I would be the guy who would be like, yeah, I got it. Don't worry about it. No matter what.
Right. Yeah, I would say I tend to offer to pay the bill a lot. I'm a bill payer type of guy, but that's just one of the ways that I show hospitality or whatever. Everyone has different. How there's the 5 love languages.
That's Ron's love language.
Right. Then there's maybe we got to write a book on the friend languages. Yes.
The
way I speak friend is I got this.
There you go.
I went out with Dante one time, and we had it was earlier in our friendship, but he had done a ton for me. So we went out to a nice steakhouse in San Diego. And I did like the sneak away, give the lady the card, right? Get it covered before, sit down, don't say a word. Then when he's like, oh, can we get the bills? Like, oh, he covered it. And I'll never forget, because Dante looked at me and he was like, hey man, I appreciate that, but don't ever do that again. I get the bill.
So
I was like, okay. And he literally, it's just his deal.
Yeah.
So this is interesting. I think more importantly, Dusty has actually been in the same room with Dante, verifying that Dante is okay. Yeah, I just that's what I was. Okay, that's what was I was wondering the whole time.
It's important that one of the three of us have a real eyewitness account.
This is a
him
real
actually
thing,
being a person.
Actually,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
True story.
It was funny because someone asked me the other day. They're like, the question they were having a discussion. Do you have any good friends you've never met?
Yeah.
And I just thought, what a ridiculous question. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute.
A lot.
Dante.
Yes, I do.
It's kind of funny, I'm sure everyone, the old, hey, this like an old school pen pal, right? When people would back in the day would have a pen pal and they'd be like, well, I think this person is real. They mail a letter back from France and then I mail a letter. And then 3 months later, I get a letter back and I'm getting photos. I think it's that was the prehistoric Instagram,
Yes.
Yeah. It's very valid.
Person might be real. And it might be real.
I would file Dante as a good friend with you because we have a ongoing message between the three of us. That's probably
he's always
daily.
sending us financial. He's probably sending us financial advice once a week, which I either don't have the money to pay attention to, or he'll be like, "Hey, if you got an extra $200K laying around, throw it here." Dante, I don't have $200K laying around.
Let me check my couch. 1 second.
Yeah, let me check my couch. We called Dusty. He might have something to lend me. Hey, Dusty.
There was that.
I got you covered.
The Bitcoin robot stuff when he started getting into that, and he told Andrew Barry and I both about that. And Andrew got into it. I didn't have the time to do all that. That's the other thing. It's hey, if you got a bunch of time and you want to invest this, you could do something with this. And I was like, this is really good. I just didn't follow through.
Yeah, he's always up to something. He is. Yeah. So anyways, that's kind of funny, He is real. He is real, Scott.
Okay, thank you. I feel I believe it a little more today.
I think the trick to getting him on live would be slowly breaking him in to being on something. So maybe the next time Dusty actually sees him, he can get him on Instagram live for a minute.
Or just live.
And that'll crack the seal.
Just call him now.
Yeah, just call him now and just hold the FaceTime up and just be like, oh, you're on the show. You might as well just come on the show.
I was just thinking more we do a 3-way call.
Yeah.
And we're just talking and we just asking questions
and hit a button.
Then we just recorded it and just dropped it. And we're like, oh, by the way, you did great on that show. You didn't know you were doing.
Yeah. Okay. That's how we do it. That's how we do it.
The best we can do is an audio only.
Yeah. Or do we? And pure theft. We didn't even tell him. Just completely stole his.
That's how it works.
Ideas and boom.
Scott just has to put a picture of him up for the whole hour.
Yeah. And the next day I'll just be like, hey, Dante, here's the link to the podcast you are on.
Yeah.
He'd love that.
Yeah. Make sure you share this.
He'd love that.
Yeah, that might be covert operation number 1 that we got to pull.
Oh, God.
We got to do what we got to do. I have a question, by the way. Have we had Branch Warren on the show yet?
No.
Why? I have a follow-up question. Why?
Well, because someone asked, and here's the thing that's fucked up, and Ron can attest to this.
I've even talked to Branch.
You talk to people so much that someone was like, you guys should have Branch on the show. And I'm like, didn't we?
Nope, never.
And then I was like, did we not? And that would be
funny because I said no, and then I second guessed myself.
Huh. That's what I'm saying. So we got to call him. I was like, we got to get him on. And then we had Dennis on yet, James?
No.
Oh, okay, because he told me he'd do it too. I literally can't remember who we've had on the show half the time.
Okay. Yeah, let's make those things happen. Those would be awesome.
Would both be great.
Yeah,
I'd love that Branch. Branch is more of a character than people realize. The way his brain functions, it's just kill mode all the time.
I can only imagine.
He walks. I remember we were doing a guest post. We were walking through a casino, and he was prowling like we were hunting a boar or something. Yeah, I finally yelled at him. I go, Branch, where are you going? And he goes, the show. And I'm like, why are you walking so angry? He goes, what do you mean? I thought we were going to kill someone.
Something.
Yeah.
like, I was waiting for, the big knife that he has for when he goes on those boar hunts. I thought he had it with him, and I was like, we're going to go kill somebody. Oh, my God.
And here's the thing.
We weren't.
He's not as big as he used to be. He's probably not quite as strong as he used to be, but that just means he's faster. You know what I'm saying?
I think he'd be way more dangerous. Way more dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would much rather have to deal with Branch Warren when he was monster than now, because he would just kill you. It would be terrible.
Yeah.
Hopefully quick.
Yes.
That's that.
I know exactly what you mean about how. I know exactly what you mean. There, I just messaged Branch again.
Nice.
Okay, good.
What are you doing now?
So
right
he
now?
walks like he kind of walks like he's like his head leads.
Yeah.
Like like
a predator.
Yeah, but the head is like like a predator. Like he's he's in a hurry.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep. What are you doing? Looking for food.
We're to kill it. Okay.
I remember Brian Dobson saying that when him and Branch would go camping, he was like, I have to bring just so much meat, just pounds and pounds of meat to feed him every night. The guy he literally I could picture it, just tearing meat from bone.
Yeah.
He doesn't even cook it.
No.
I'm just starting rumors now.
Yeah.
He just holds it over the flame. He holds raw pieces over the fire for a second like a marshmallow.
On his fork.
And just tinges each piece.
This is like Chuck Norris lore at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's exactly what we've done.
Yeah. I know. So I have to mention we got a lot of feedback about the Ramy episode.
Yes, good and bad. Some people
good and bad
weren't happy with your thoughts. I was pretty middle of the road.
Yeah, Scott,
not
accurately
shocking.
Rated. Yeah.
He's got him accurately rated as whatever the fans say he is.
Accurately rated. Yeah. I know.
Makes sense.
So now, how did you feel about what we said after it was over?
Who, me?
Like, because well, no. When you read all the comments, like, did you think, maybe these people have a point? Or maybe
I just was so fascinated, man, because I love whether you like Ramy, whether you don't like Ramy. I was absolutely fascinated with the level of passion that I saw in bodybuilding, because there's people who got behind him like so strongly. And here's the thing: a lot of times, if you really like somebody, people are like, "Oh, you're riding that guy's dick," and it's not cool to be totally on board with a bodybuilder, or to really be totally on board with anything. You got to have like a little bit of like, "Oh, really? I don't care." But you know what? There are people who like legit love Ramy. He's the coolest thing in the world in bodybuilding to them. I love seeing that. At the end of the day, we have to remember that it is all personal opinion. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many different like perfect bodybuilders out there, but to hear those people voice their opinions, man, I loved seeing that, because that tells me that bodybuilding is alive and well.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it's good to hear the people talk that don't know. It's really cool.
Hey, they know what they like.
I like to hear these younger, less experienced people that have no perspective speaking their minds. That's what Dusty just said.
It's funny. This is what made me laugh, though, Ron, was so I got a few like death threats. There was white powder in my mailbox earlier.
You got the anthrax letter, did you?
I thought anthrax was over, but apparently not.
Right.
But what made me laugh was I'm like, okay, so these guys watched every second of the video and didn't get the very end where Ron and I both said, we really hope to be proven wrong in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it was. I'm like, I'm excited. Said I want to be wrong.
Yeah.
But I think here's going to be the one thing I'm going to say, and I would love for Ron to do this because he's on this level. I would love a text to go to Chad Nichols that says, who's the best Mr. Olympia of all time? And I will bet almost everything the answer comes back, Ronnie Coleman. I'd be stunned if it didn't. And think about, I would love Chad's perspective on the top 10 bodybuilders of all time.
That'd be interesting.
Because he worked with, so many of them, also guys who didn't win the Olympia. And I know he wouldn't answer directly Ramy versus Flex right now, but I'd love to know later who he thinks. This will be funny because he might actually answer Ron quickly. You never know. He might not even be awake yet, though. He's a late guy.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved seeing that though. So it was cool. It was cool to see that level of interaction. You know what I mean?
See what he says.
This will be great. I'm gonna laugh when he comes back and he's like, "That's so obvious." And it's like, like somebody way in the past. Like I'd be like, "Oh,
Samir Bannout was the best ever."
Oh, right.
The 1980 Arnold. Wait, what?
Yeah. No, it was good. I agree with you, Scott. It was good to see the passion. It sort of like reminded me, like, I know every Mr. Olympia has his fans, right?
Yeah.
Like all the Mr. Olympias have like their group of really, like, I guess, rabid fans that think that they're just the best. But the Ramy fans, I guess they sort of remind me of Dorian's fans.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Very, very, like, I was one of those people, right? Very, very set. Like,
yeah,
there is no arguing this. Like, you know what I mean? That sort of thing. Yeah. Sort of reminded me some of the stuff they were saying, like, you don't know any idea what they're saying and what are you looking at? And I was like, oh, I kind of remember saying that.
Think about the level that Ramy has inspired them then, because that's really what it comes down to. Like, you love the bodybuilders you love because they inspire you. You see something in them, even if you're not thinking to yourself, like, one day I'm going to look like Ramy. Just, I don't know. To me, that's what's really awesome about it, you know? And
I will say that last video that went up of him where he was wearing the shorts, so you couldn't see his legs, but you know, they're just stupid huge.
Yeah.
And he's just doing the quarter turns and the round of poses. Do you remember those?
Yeah, I saw that.
That was fucking impressive. Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? But, you know, Instagram, of course, doesn't like count, you know, you know what I mean? So you kind of go, well, that video is pretty crazy, but let's just see, you know, like how this works out. Like, cause I mean, you know, the front double, the side chest, the back, like, they were just ridiculous shots, you know, and he did look like he's on track to be better. So that were pretty exciting, you know?
Yeah. But, that's what some of his fans were saying, that they're like, and before he didn't even train for a full year. That was him with a bunch of time off. So just wait, you know?
Yeah, I know.
That was what the guy at the Anthrax said. Very similar. You know, but I can't wait now for the guy.
Doesn't he have like a lot of kids and stuff? Like, yeah, I don't know. I know there's been periods where he wasn't even training. So, you know.
What?
Shit.
I have to derail us because now you guys have got my curiosity going. One or two guys that you're most excited to see at the Olympia this year?
Two guys that we're most excited to see at the Olympia. That's a really tough question.
Because, like, I know for me, based on what I'm seeing, and I'm hoping because I love him, is I think Hunter Labrada is going to be fucking nightmare at the Olympia.
That was one of the names I was going to say because of what he's been doing. And we've seen it all year. We've seen him doing it all year. It's no surprise. Like, you know, we see the videos he puts up training and it's like precision destruction, you know what I mean? Like the intensity's off the charts and you can tell the exercises he's doing are, you know, curated for exactly what he's looking to achieve. And, you know, everything that he's doing seems so tailored for exactly what he's trying to do. That's just the vibe I get from Hunter. And with his dad around, like, I just see that mentality as like very, very tough to beat, you know, like what do we need to do for me, period. It's not about anything else. I think some guys get caught up in like other things, but they just seem like that's just the vibe I get. I don't know why I get that vibe from them, but that's just how I see Hunter and his camp is like, you know, very, very focused on exactly what he needs to do. And it's like, I mean, the pictures, I mean, they're, you know, that improvement shot he put up from the back.
Oh,
I was
God.
like, Jesus. Like,
you were bonkers already.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah. I was pulling up the list of everybody that is qualified because I wanted to.
700 people. That's a lot to go through.
Yeah, right? Because I wanted to see everybody who was going to be there before I threw my favorites names in the hat. I'm going to throw that up here too while you guys look at that.
Yeah, so it was Ramy in first, Curry in second, Hadi in third, Hunter in fourth, Nick in fifth. That's where it was.
There we go.
One
That's
spot.
right,
Yeah, the top five. And then I can't remember who sixth was.
Who was? Can you say who was? My headphones fell out there for a second. Can you say that again?
Yeah, it was Ramy, Curry, Hadi, Hunter in fourth.
Yeah,
and Nick in fifth.
Nick in fifth, and then where is Iain?
Oh, I think it wasn't Iain seventh.
Okay,
I thought. Anyways, I just have a top five in front of me here. But
as you've said, we aren't here to do actual news.
No. Don't come to us for year-old contest results.
But I've got the list right here.
2-day-old contest results.
Nick Walker, I'm excited to see Nick. Brandon Curry, I'm excited to see him. Hadi, absolutely. Hunter. Shaun Clarida. What about Shaun Clarida?
I think Shaun Clarida is the...
They're not going to?
No.
I
don't think so. Oh, Bonac got 6th. Iain got 7th.
Bonac. Oh, we forgot about Bonac. That's right.
Always in there being nosy.
Justin Rodriguez got 8th. Akeem got 9th.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people I'm excited to see.
To me now.
Looking at this list of the upcoming lineup, there's a lot of people I'm excited to see here. These guys are just. I want to see. I really want to see what Brandon brings. I've been following him for so long, and I'm excited to see, because like we talked about in the last episode, it'd be cool to see him really nail it, and he would have the potential. He's like logistically the powers that be could easily let him win, right? Like he's not going to have to like put in more time, right? So if he came in right and Ramy didn't, and he came in a little bit better, they could give it to him for sure. It was close.
Brandon has a distinct psychological advantage. You know how the judges are being as subject or objective as they can be, but they're still humans. Yeah. And the fact that he's already won an Olympia gives him the coin toss in a tie, technically.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if it's just in the minds of the judges without them realizing it. Like, let's say it was a dead coin toss between, Brandon and someone else. Like, let's say Ramy blows it.
Yeah.
And just is like fourth.
You're going to get a shot.
And
Jesus.
Well, I'm just saying, but let's just say something happened where, let's say it was like a toss up between a couple of other guys and Brandon. Mm-hmm. Brandon has the advantage.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, that works for him. I'd say if I had to pick two guys, I would say Hunter. Mm-hmm. And I would say Brandon or Ramy. That's tough because, I'm excited to see what happens with Ramy. It's hard to not be excited to see him. But Brandon, I'd say Hunter and Brandon if I had to, not pick Ramy. Yeah. And then
what about you, Scott?
Other guys that I will mention just because I am excited to see them, but is Iain and I'm excited to see Hollingshead. Yeah, those are my buddies. Oh yeah. I want to scream my head off for Iain and Hollingshead, and I mean, who knows what's going to happen? Those pictures of Iain are ridiculous. Like he's just going into fuck you territory now. He's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to get so crazy thick. Like he's into Dorian Yates size now, carrying at his height.
Yeah,
he's a freak, genuine. So I'm pretty excited.
I feel like last year for James Hollingshead, I feel like it wasn't his best showing, and I feel like regardless of where he places this year, this could be a hell of a redemption year for him.
Absolutely.
Just by, bringing the best look he can and having come in full, dry, hard, all of that. Because he has a great physique, and I think that a lot of us, like in people who are watching podcasts and people who are watching Fuad and all that, like we all know him, but I feel like there is a bigger group of bodybuilding fans that maybe hasn't caught on yet, and then they saw him at the Olympia and they're like, this guy's all right, but comparatively to the guys who are like the top placers, it's like, nothing special, right? So I feel like what I would personally like to see is for him to be able to have that opportunity to show the fans, all the rest of those fans, how awesome he is.
We already know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I know.
I think that could be a cool win for him, regardless of where he places,
Yeah.
So, what do you think, Dusty? So while we are derailed, Scott, top 5. Let me just stealing the entire show with whatever the hell I want.
You didn't tell us the two people. You didn't tell us the two people
before that.
I told you Hunter already because that was Hunter's the main focus.
Yeah.
But then the second for me is even though I know, I want to see Shaun Clarida just annihilate everyone. Yeah. Like I don't think that people understand. Like in my opinion, he is the best bodybuilder on the planet.
He's incredible, like absolutely incredible.
I mean, head to toe. If you're going pound for pound, how is he not Flex Wheeler but in better shape?
It's a wild claim. It's like it sounds at first like a crazy claim. You're like, what did you just say? But then when you pull out the calculator, or you take the photo and scale it up to the same height as Flex Wheeler. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
When you start doing these sorts of things, it's like, fuck. You know, so
pick a muscle that he doesn't have. Like, tell me the jump to your face weakness of Shaun Clarida. You don't have one.
Yeah,
it's
and
not
you can't even
conditioning. It's
say
not
like
shape. It's not size.
Yeah.
It's like what
it's
the
not
hell
structural.
is he? Yeah,
and then
he's
also too, Dusty. Also too, he has that. You know how there's a couple of like genres of bodybuilder, like for example, I said to someone the other day that I look at Hunter. He sort of, to me, is in the same category as Lee Priest in terms of guys that have really crazy size in their arms and legs. Like almost, the arms and legs are almost like scaled up over other things, but it's like a cool look, so you like it.
Yeah.
Right.
And Lee Priest had it. Hunter has it. So now to say the similar thing, like why we compare Flex Wheeler with Clarida, like people might not realize why we compare them, but it's the joint size. It's the tiny knees, that's what is drawing our eye. The tiny wrists, it's the frame is super small. And when you look at Flex Wheeler and you think in that terms, you're like, oh yeah, that is why his shape is so crazy. Because a lot of people, you know, they don't know bodybuilding as well. They just think they're looking at a guy with round muscles, and they don't understand what that means. Part of it is that the skeletal structure is very fine, and the muscle added to it is like disproportionate in like a really radical way.
Yeah,
and it creates that crazy shape that he has. So, I mean,
I mentioned this one time before. But the first interaction, which is so cool, that I had with Brandon Curry was 2019. I was talking about him on Bodybuilding Nerds Radio with VJ. He listened to that show, and we're talking about how the old school guys prided themselves on having small joints. Like Frank Zane actually like put out his joint measurements. He had like
they used to measure them.
He had like a 7-inch wrist. Okay. So Brandon Curry does this video on Instagram. He's like, hey, I'm doing this. Shout out to my boys, Scott and VJ, Bodybuilding Nerds Radio. We're going to call it the wrist challenge. And he measures his wrist. His wrist was like 7 inches, same as Frank Zane. It's like,
but with
no way.
Yeah, it was nutty, man. It was nutty. And it was crazy because the first time I met him in person, I feel stupid for saying this because I was like, you're not as tall as I thought you were going to be. Because I just pictured like this huge guy, you know what I'm saying? But when I walked up to him, we're like about the same height. It's just that his structure is such that he can hold so much freaking muscle on it, and it makes it look that much more just freaky. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if he was like a big, wide human being, it would take that much more muscle to make it look good.
Yeah, and then he'd weigh like 300.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So Dusty put you on the spot for your top 5.
Man,
that's right.
Wouldn't it be incredible if Nick Walker, because like there are people out there, we talked about Ramy Fans. There are people out there that are like, Nick Walker's going to fucking win this shit.
Yeah.
What if Nick Walker walked all the way through? What if that happened? I'm not going to say he can't because he has an incredible physique and he's young. That kid's coming up out of nowhere. What if Nick Walker was in the top 3 this year? That would mean, dude, what about What about all those great guys? There's so many great people. So if Ramy loses, if Ramy, say, didn't come in right, and that's the thing, right? So when we get to the Olympia, I'm looking at this list of 30 guys or whatever this is. These are literally the 30 best human beings in the world at what this sport is. So when one of them loses, it's not because they had a shitty physique or they had a wide waist. It's because they all are the best for themselves. Like Ramy is the best Ramy can be. Brandon's the best Brandon can be. And if they don't, what wins and loses it for them is their conditioning, their fullness. And those are things that are so hard to control and that you guys know. And for people who haven't peaked, like each peak is different. We could peak today and then peak a week from today. The look is going to be different each time. We can control a lot of factors. There's some things that we just can't control because a human being, the human body is just so if it's hard to say because it's all going to come down to the peak. But the same top 5 guys, who were the top 5 again last time, Ron?
There were Ramy, Brandon, Hadi, Hunter, and Nick. Could
you guys see anybody, let me start by this. Could you see anybody pushing one of them out of the top 5?
I think it's going to be, Bonac in 6 from last year is the only guy that can mix it up in there. Man, that's the thing about it's such a fucking traffic jam.
It really is.
It's a crazy traffic jam, like really, really brutal.
Yeah.
Like look at a guy like Iain.
Yeah.
Look at the physique he's built.
And he's just making improvements.
Huge frame. And he carries so much mass, and he's so dense and so shredded, and the condition and the fullness is just fucking, sliding everything up to 11.
He makes other guys look small too, peeled.
Yeah, he makes other guys look small and narrow, and he looks great in lots of his shots. Yeah,
the shots he wins are like incredible.
Yeah, and people aren't like throwing him into the top 5 easily. Right. And that's just like crazy to me. Like, I'd love to see Iain just fucking stomp into the top 5 and like fucking, you would be awesome, cause I like really cheer for him. But I mean, that top 5 is what it is.
There's a strong top 5.
And does it change at all? Like, is it the same 5 and they just shake the snow globe and set it back down and you get the same 5, right? Just in maybe slightly different order or crazy different order. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Meaning 6 through 10 is going to be still a great show. Like there's going to be a lot of excitement in that 6 through 10.
Like the 6 to 10 call out's going to be mental. Like, cause there's like a lot of prize money difference between 6th and 10th. So,
I think what's crazy is going to these smaller shows and realizing that any of the guys in the top 10 would have won all of the small shows.
Yeah.
Like if you really think about that, like, and I say top 10, just throwing a number, it might be closer to 7 or 8, but that top group would have beaten all of these guys. And I think that's where one thing fans don't realize is, for example, an Andrew Jacked. I am extremely impressed by him, but I don't know who he really is until I see him on that stage with those guys.
Sure.
Because it's a different thing. He might be right there. I don't know. But until you see him, I think I have to admit that I always knew Nick Walker was great, but it wasn't until the Arnold that I went, oh, fuck, you're that great.
Yeah.
It's another level. So I think you guys are right. I think I'd be stunned if the top 5 changes as far as who they are. I think it's Ramy's show to lose, which is probably shocks people after last week. But if he's on, he's unbeatable.
Yeah, it's going to come down to
really think that.
Peak.
It comes down to what he brings. And again, that's assuming Brandon, I don't know what he looks like, which is a little scary just from seeing him in person, because he might mute this entire subject if he comes in sliced based on what he looked like in person in a t-shirt, and actually putting my hand on his trap and being like, Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, he was really big.
Big,
like
lumpy.
Brandon,
I was
Brandon,
like, oh.
I know we said that on the show, but like, we just want everyone to know Brandon was like the biggest I've ever seen him.
And we're close. Ever. It's not like this is the middle of off season.
Yeah. And it's like 5 weeks out at the time. And I was like, Jesus.
So let me ask you guys this. I'm going to use a Sean Ray term here. Who could upset the apple cart?
Upset the apple cart. I love
it. Oh man.
So let's pick a dark one that'll crack into the top 5 and upset somebody.
Man, I could say Nick Walker could upset the apple cart by just moving up, because moving up, any of those guys, that means somebody else is going to have to move down, and those are solidified places, if you ask me.
So
if I was going to get wild, I would say that Hunter will win the Olympia.
Whew,
that would be like a wild statement that I think is completely possible.
It's nice because it's a ballsy statement, Dusty, but like if it happened. Like if it didn't happen, people won't remember you saying that. But if it happened, like you've got that recorded now, you know.
We can like play that back. It's like, you know, and just to say, like, it's not that's not my prediction, but I really think it could happen. Like he's that good. I really think that the new version of him, people are going to see that he stood there just fine last year, and he annihilates who he was. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen Brandon. But I don't think anyone else that I've seen annihilates who they were last year. Based on what I've seen, I don't see Nick beating Hunter. And again, there's a lot that happens. There's peaking and all that stuff. But based on the improvements I've seen, you know, Hunter would be my pick to have people go, oh, fuck. Like, even if he made top 2, it's like, how do you do that in this lineup with Brandon and Ramy sitting at the top? Like, I don't think anyone's saying, well, one of those two is going to fall down. Probably not great odds. You know, so yeah, that'll be my bold claim.
And I don't even know what to say. Like, you know, that year that Roden showed up and like out conditioned everyone, and then Phil happened to be more distended.
Yeah.
And he won. So like, man, to me, that's Hottie.
Right.
Like Hottie's the guy that like could just show up and have nothing wrong with him and be far better conditioned than everyone else and just look fantastic. And the judges go, oh, Plinko, bing, first place. Like, you know what I mean? Like Hottie could do that too. I mean, he almost did it before. Like, remember the year, didn't he get second? Yeah, he got second to Ramy one year.
Did he get second? Oh, yeah, he did. You're right.
Yeah, I thought he got second to Ramy, and he won the People's Champ Award. Remember that year?
That was incredible.
Oh, crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you just never know. Like, Hottie, that's the thing that all 3 of those guys, Hunter, Nick, and Hottie, they're just, crazy ability to do that. You know, Brandon, of course, already did it. Brandon already took an Olympia away from somebody. You know, he already walked in and, you know, took a title, and that's just, I'm excited.
It's going to be good. I'm getting excited just talking to you guys.
I'm super lucky that I have tickets to go, like super lucky that I have tickets to go. And then I saw what the floor tickets are selling for.
Yeah.
You see the prices on some of that stuff? Like, is it just like...
Oh, by the way, the best he got is third.
Oh, how do you go third? He got
third
the year? Okay.
Third in 2019, fourth in 2020.
Okay, so I was
third
off.
in 2021.
I thought he got second.
So, third twice. Okay, yeah.
We already had people commenting.
We were going to
get
annihilated on that. They're fucking,
and you know what? They're going to
screaming at us.
They're going to hit send anyways.
Yeah, they already did. Sure. They already did.
They already hit send before we're done the sentence. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, they corrected it. Never mind, I didn't mean it. Send.
You know what's bad though is I can say when I was following bodybuilding younger, I would have known that too. And like, are these fucking guys kidding?
Yeah,
are they kidding?
Me too.
Like,
you know what the problem is?
It is weird. You get closer and you drift away from it. Whereas when it was so far away, I was like I could argue what Ronnie weighed in 03 back in the day. I was like, he was 287, asshole.
Yeah, but
someone's
I don't remember any of
285.
Brandon's weight. Right.
Yeah.
So I think my brain is at the same point that my iPhone 10 is at, where I have to delete a video to film a new video. So if I'm out and I want to like video some riding to see if I can catch a few tricks on my bike, I have to like go back and like delete like 2 minutes worth of old training footage that I don't need anymore.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, now I got room, and then I can film it. I'm far overdue to go get a new phone, but that's where my brain's at. And you start throwing body weights at me now, I'm just like, not sticking.
No.
But it's interesting because if I asked you about, 95 Dorian, you would know everything still. It's like you refuse to delete that data.
Right. It's like you keep the nudes from the old girlfriend. You delete all the other stuff, but you keep the nudes. Like, no, that's important. I have to remember that. Yeah.
Come on. Obviously. I have a file for that.
Obviously. I have a data stick for that. Right? I got a data stick. Amazing. I have a whole data stick that's just labeled Dorian, and all his information is on there, and I'm keeping it, and it's set aside. Yeah. Okay. That was good.
That's good.
See?
I mean, we weren't right. Well, we pissed people off, but it was good.
It'll be great to just see. Yeah. Yeah. I know. So we have some listener questions, right?
We got a bunch of them. Yeah, we do. We had one that I wanted to. Let me see if I can pull these up here. We had a serious one, guys. We're going to change the mood a little bit here.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
I can do it.
All right, you ready? We need to give some advice here. Question for the next show. And by the way, guys, if you want to take part in the next show, we'd love to have you comment on the next episode. I do my best to try to gather all the questions up. Plus, all those comments, they help to boost the show up. You guys are freaking killing it with that. Michael says, question for the next show. How would you deal with rejection from a woman? Not a breakup, but simply just her choosing to go date someone else instead of me. Thank you, guys.
Do her best friend. Whoa.
I had like 2 seconds where I was actually going to try to think of like a real answer, and then Dusty just fuck her best friend.
Yeah, that was a real answer for Dusty.
All right, so what's the next question?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of caveats, right? So is this a girl from the gym? If this is a girl from the gym, then the answer is run through the gym and bang as many other girls as you possibly can.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? See Dusty shaking his head. Or another answer is get a membership at another gym for your cardio and then run through as many of them as you possibly can. Once again, Dusty shaking his head. Dusty knows.
Dusty approved.
I'm surprised you don't already have
there
that
we
membership.
Go. Both of those are Dusty approved answers as Dusty's friend.
I like that.
There we go.
That's good.
No.
That's good.
I would say just, here's a little Jordan Peterson.
Yes.
If this is the 20th or 30th girl in a row, maybe the problem's you. However, if it's not, if it's just her rejecting you and you're like, God damn, what the fuck? You just got to move on. They make girls every day.
There are a lot of them.
Yeah, and
but don't look for the new ones that just got made. It's kind of creepy.
Well, no, but there's always a new crop. They're making them. There's always a new set of girls his age that are, coming single and getting divorced and all that stuff. I don't know how old he is again. If he's 17, that might be different.
That's fine.
If he's 40,
that's fine.
It's something you have to get. You have to learn how to handle rejection. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to learn how to deal with people telling you no in life.
Yeah. Yeah. You put on some Pantera and you sit in your car and you fucking scream the lyrics as loud as you fucking can.
Yeah.
And then you like go, okay, I'm okay. I'm okay.
We're good. We're good.
You move on, right? You move on. I think that's exactly what you were saying, but in a more specific way, Ron.
Yeah. And you start a second Instagram account and you harass her through it and send her all sorts of. Just kidding.
I don't want to fucking date you anyway.
I want to fuck you anyway.
Like Socrates might have been the one with the quote. Nothing gets you over the last one, like getting on top of the next one. Something like that. Anyways, I can't remember which philosopher went with that, but
Socrates.
Yeah, it was one.
Anyway.
All right. Well, something more important than for Mr. Scotty. Question for the next one. You have to choose some for the rest of your life. Either everything is cold or hot. That includes food, drinks, weather, shower, etc. Thanks for the continued entertainment.
Fuck you, Scotty.
I know,
That's
right?
a dick question. Ron's got to go cold because of temperature. I already know that. He can't deal with hot.
I don't know, because then it's cold showers and
it's not fun.
I'm like,
Yeah, but do you want to be hot in your house?
Oh, Jesus. And drinking hot liquids and eating hot food and being
sweating
hot
all the time. It's like living in Louisiana, basically.
Hot
like how
cream.
cold? Like how cold?
Fuck.
Like, just like, is it like, like how many, is it just, instead of being, perfect temperature in your house, just like a few degrees cold all the time, like enough to annoy you? Is that how cold? Or is it like no heat and you're like,
Yeah, but think
burying
about
the
it.
natural
You can't be
element?
like frozen because your chicken will be frozen then.
So let's just say that all the numbers are adjusted to be uncomfortable either way.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree.
Like
with that.
annoying, right? Like it's like annoyingly hot. We're like, oh fuck, this is pretty hot. And then it's like, fuck, I need to put like another sweater on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to wear like wool socks in the house and stuff.
I'd go with cold, personally.
I'm going with cold too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I might go with cold. In that case, if you can make it like sanely livable, where you just wear a hoodie all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can't
sleep with
imagine
a lot of blankets.
Like
that's
being
cozy.
hot. I couldn't even like sleep at all if it was hot. Like I keep my house like in the 60s at night. I don't want to be hot.
Yeah.
And cold food doesn't bother me because I think most people, like you said, if you're just making it a little less than great. I've eaten a lot of cold chicken in my life. So
Cold steak, I like cold steak. I'll eat cold steak out of the fridge, like on purpose. If I'm just having a piece of steak
Cold
before
steak is
bed
good.
or something, I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna eat this steak before bed with nothing else, just a steak on a plate. Cold steak.
I've got a Ron factoid. I remember watching a documentary and hearing them say that on Alcatraz, they were forced to take hot showers so that they couldn't condition their bodies to the cold temperatures because the ocean around them was freezing. And so they didn't want them to get like allow themselves to get conditioned so they could handle that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That was something Ron was saying, isn't it, Dusty?
That's a great one.
Yeah.
Did you ever see the original Escape from Alcatraz with Clint Eastwood?
I don't think so.
No.
It's a great movie. I saw it like a bunch of times as a kid because I remember my dad loved that movie. And it's one of Clint Eastwood's like 70s movies. Like he's a lot younger in it, obviously. But it's based on a true story about the guys who actually, staged an escape from Alcatraz, and they burrowed their way through their cell wall, and they used like the end of a spoon, and it took like years to dig the hole.
And nothing else to do.
And they made these life preservers out of these. I don't remember exactly how they did it, but they had like raincoats that they had cut and stitched together and all this stuff. And they covered the hole in the cell with like with posters, and they moved something in front of them or something. Anyways, they just took their time and after enough time, and then they put the cement that they dug out of the wall, they put it in their pockets. And they'd walk out on the yard and sprinkle it all over the ground to get rid of it. They'd empty their pockets out on the yard to get rid of the dust. And so every night they'd dig a few pockets full out of the wall and then go drop it in the yard. And it just went on and on and on. And then they made these paper mache heads so that they could put them in the blankets and like make it look like there was a body sleeping. So they'd at least make it all the way to the morning cell check, And it gave them enough hours to get away. And of course, they think they drowned, but they may have made it. They talk about, I watched documentaries after about the currents in the San Francisco Bay and where they think they would have, at that point in the night, if they hit the water, they would have either drifted out to sea or made the far point, and they might have made it, but, again, it's one of the mysteries. Did they actually survive the escape? But they got out and they got into the water, and they know that for sure. So, but it was a great movie back in the 70s. So it's probably pretty dated to watch it, but I just remember thinking it was like, a real nail biter.
Yeah. All right. Ryan Mansfield. Or Manifield. He says, question for the next podcast. Where does Lee Haney rate in the all-time greatest bodybuilder ranks? Whenever the topic comes up, his name never or rarely gets mentioned, and I was wondering why that was. 8 times Olympia and retired undefeated. For me, he had one of the most perfect physiques of all time, but just wanted to know what you guys think. Thanks.
Lee Haney is a great topic. when it comes to the greatest of all time, because I think it happens with all sports. The sport itself gets elevated to the point where most of the guys that legend competed against wouldn't do well anymore. Do you know what I mean? Like the same thing in hockey. You know, you could talk about how amazing Gordie Howe was, but that was the NHL in the 50s and 60s, right? So like, how big were defensemen and how fast were they?
Goalies. What are the goalies wearing?
What are the goalies wearing? What are the rules? You know, so there's all that talk and that sort of stuff kind of, it happens in all sports. And for, you know, each generation eventually gets far enough in the past that the next generation goes, oh, wow, I mean, they wouldn't really be able to compete anymore. And that, you know, the current crop and all that sort of stuff. So it does, you know, like, why didn't we mention Arnold when we talked about greatest of all time?
Yeah.
You know, because we're thinking, well, like, you know, Arnold's not going to beat Ronnie in current judging standards, you know. They talk about the greatest hockey player of all time now. And of course, everyone says Wayne Gretzky still has, you know, the stats and the respect and all that stuff. But then other guys will come along and go, yeah, well, 170 pounds just ain't going to cut it anymore. Like, you're not going to be 170 skating up the boards in today's NHL. You'll just get fucking turned into squash bug, you know?
Exactly.
Like, so that's, you know, that's how people kind of like, you know, but I guess back to the main point is Lee was incredibly dominant, and definitely I'd say Lee was possibly the most dominant Mr. Olympia for a while.
I agree. For sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, there's, you know, Yates had really tough competition. He had Flex Wheeler, Kevin LeBron, Sean Ray, you know, and, you know, Arnold had some close calls. Like, you know, he had a couple, you know, that were close, you know, but, you know, Lee Haney kind of killed everybody for, like, you know, a long time.
Yeah.
And he retired when he was like 11 years old.
But yeah, well, that's another thing.
Right.
Didn't Lee retire at 31?
Something like that.
I think so, yeah.
He retired at 31.
Yeah. With 8
uninjured
wins.
and no injuries.
That's incredible.
You know, so yeah, that he's definitely in the mix to discuss, you know, relative greatest of all time. You know, incredibly dominant.
He was one of my
I feel
favorite.
like if you look at Lee, so like if you plopped Arnold into today's bodybuilding with the drugs, with the supplements, with all those things, I still don't see his body hanging.
Right.
But if Lee did all that stuff, I think he'd be ruining people. I think he'd be ruining people. So
right.
My knee jerk when the question was asked was third. Just because I think that Phil and Ronnie are, and I hate to say this because I'm such a Ronnie fan, but I think Phil and Ronnie are a coin flip. I really do. And I know that sounds crazy, but the more I went back and looked, and Ron and I have talked about this off air many times, you go back and look at Phil, you appreciate him more and more and more. Yeah. I remember thinking it was close between him and Kai. Now I look at pictures, I'm like, it was never close. Never.
No, I never once had anyone beating Phil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, but yeah, so to me, with those thoughts, I would say he's probably the third best all time. If not, you know, you could argue even further, but you know, those two to me are just so cemented. And I saw him live, and that does play a bit of a role in your thoughts. You know, because Dorian was done when I was really watching bodybuilding. It was looking back in retrospect and seeing pictures. And like I've said on the show many times, like, Chris told me I have no idea what Dorian was because I never saw him in person. He's like, it was a different thing in person. So
yeah,
a different perspective on Dorian. I remember hearing interviews with guys that John Hansen had done. Speaking of which, I'm going to record with John later this week. I'm excited. He's cool. We're going to talk about the gear that guys used to use back in the day because he's talked to all those guys. But people, I remember hearing on his show, Bodybuilding Legends, people saying that when Dorian came in, like, there were people that said like bodybuilding died at that point because he was just too big.
Right.
It's interesting.
I remember that.
There's a definitive line. Oh, this disgusting is too much. That's not bodybuilding anymore. And now look at today, you know, by comparison, like we're so I don't want to use the word jaded, but desensitized. We know what mass can be. Like Dorian's like, yeah, he looks good. He looks real good. But there's guys that are bigger, you know?
Yeah, I remember like towards at the end of the 90s there, like, you know, 96, 97, you know, there was a lot of people in like the bodybuilding circle. You'd hear them say, of course, this is before the internet too. This isn't online. This is like when you go to shows, when you talk to the old guys that judge, when you're talking like, you know, all the people you used to see before the internet, right? The people in your actual bodybuilding community. You'd hear a lot of them saying like, oh yeah, you know, the mass monsters are out of control. You know, Dorian, and now you got Nasser and Marcus Rule coming up, and this is just getting out of hand. And don't worry, this is just a phase. This can't continue. You know, this will become unmarketable and unprofitable. And as soon as magazine sales start dropping from having these guys on the covers, you know, it'll all go back to like, you know, Flex will start winning, Sean Ray will start winning. I remember hearing people say that to me.
No kidding, huh?
Yeah, and they just thought it was like a little phase, you know? And then everyone just kept getting fucking bigger, you know?
All right. So, here's a question for us. It's howdy y'all, and it's a staple greeting as a Texan. I like that. Huh. Great show, fellas. Quick question for the next show. Any advice on someone making the switch from powerlifting to bodybuilding? Thank you for the time, content, and humor. Y'all have made me a new big fan of bodybuilding. Sorry for the YouTube name, haha. PJ Lurker 420.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know what that is.
I'd say he's in his pajamas.
Yeah.
Lurking on the internet, stoned out of his mind.
Smoking weed.
Yeah, yes. It's possible.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you one line, and it's the advice that I was given when I was 14 years old by a guy at the gym. And he said, because there were power lifters in my gym, so they were always squatting in the corner or something, right? And he said, a power lifter uses body mechanics and positioning to make a heavyweight feel light. And a bodybuilder uses biomechanics and positioning to make a lightweight feel heavy. Don't ever forget that.
Great.
It's the foundation.
And I just say that coming from a powerlifting background, I do see powerlifters that tend to convert to bodybuilding, but they continue to use biomechanical advantage type powerlifting stances and grips for almost everything because they just want to lift really heavy. So you see them, 5-6 plating all the hammer machines and, doing, obviously, you know what I mean? When they should be like relearning how to row. Cause like some powerlifters don't really know how to row that well. Like, they don't really, it's not a thing. They're deadlifting, right? So they're doing rows as like an accessory exercise. And a lot of times it's just all about just getting as much range as they can and working the whole back. But the precision bombing that bodybuilders do is like a new thing to a lot of them. So I would just say, there's a lot left to explore on how to move weights.
I would add to that. One thing I find bodybuilders, especially younger bodybuilders, get lost in is the rules. Control the negative, do this. And I'm not saying, I've preached that those things are good, but don't lose track of where you're feeling the body. If you're doing a movement and you're slowly controlling the negative on, say, a tricep movement, but you're not feeling that negative in your tricep, then it's a waste of fucking time.
Yeah.
Same thing. Curls are notorious for that. I see guys slowly controlling the negative, but by watching their body, you can tell their front delt is what's actually bringing it down slow. And it's like,
yeah, the arm's not
doesn't matter.
Moving.
Yeah.
It's just the front delt. Yeah.
Yeah. So the big thing that I like to press with people when they're trying to get into bodybuilding is, and I think of this in the gym when I watch people do dumb shit, is I want to ask them, like, not even being a dick, but just say, okay, what do you think that's working? And now ask me or tell me, do you feel it there? Because I think at the end of the day, that's what it really breaks down to. If you're feeling a movement very, very well and you're seeing change, I don't really give a shit if you're doing it right or wrong. If you're feeling it where you want to feel it. You know what I'm saying? So, I say right or wrong as long as you're safe. But That's the big factor I look at with powerlifters. I would say to myself, okay, but where am I feeling it? You know, and if you are, great. And the only other thing is drop the dosage because you guys take too many drugs. Okay.
Okay.
The drug cycles scare me. Anyways, moving forward.
What's like a stereotypical powerlifter drug cycle in your mind? Like kind of just joking around. What would you say?
Here's the thing.
Anadrol is in there. That's for sure. Right.
Anadrol, trends, like high doses of them. I mean, basically anything that makes your liver quiver and bladder splatter, they're doubling the dose on.
Liver quiver and bladder splatter. Okay. Oh, goodness sakes.
Yes, frightening.
That's funny. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Let's see here. We had one.
Whoa, that one got big.
LD Physique. It says, Scott, any chance we can get Dusty to talk about training for like a 2-hour episode? The guy is honestly a wizard. I would put him up against anyone when it comes to the knowledge on training. And then we had somebody else saying that they supported that. And then I asked them that we did that one episode, remember, Dusty, where we talked all about DC training for the whole episode while Ron was away. And then I wanted to mention Vert at the bottom added and include Dante on that conversation as well. And just something to bring up for you guys to talk about and go.
You know what I think is cool? My knee jerk on that actually would be if we were going to do a show all about training, I would want to have like 3 people with different views roundtable training, because that's really what comes into play. Like, I appreciate the comments, but I really think that my expertise in training is pretty narrow for what I do. And I think there's a lot more to add to it if you bring, you know, other people that train different styles and things into the mix, which could kind of help people, because sometimes when you're talking about a training that you do and you really prescribe to, it sounds like you're selling it.
Yeah.
And then people, like, they walk away and they're like, that's how I got to train. And it's like, no, it's not how you have to train. It definitely works, but there's other ways. And you should kind of, in my opinion, you should tinker and figure out which ones there are. You know, I mean, Ron and I both put on a lot of mass over, you know, years for guys with, you know, mediocre, you know, a little better than medium genetics.
Shitty.
But totally different styles. I mean, I shouldn't say totally, but within reason, if you really broke down. I mean, Ron moved fast and did high intensity training. I moved slower than, I was like a power lifter in the gym and did that kind of training. So, you know, the results, point being, were pretty similar as far as for our body types. So I'd love to do something like that though, because I enjoy talking training. I hate talking drugs. I just find them boring. It's not exciting to me at all. But training, you can get behind, because I think that's the lost art. That, you know, I saw you shared it too, Ron. That Lane Norton post was genius.
Yeah, Lane, I'll pull that up. That was Lane Norton post got a lot of love. It was just a couple slides. He said, don't get me wrong, I love science. I think researching optimal methods is great, but many of the people I see getting caught up in what is optimal for every single variable don't even push themselves hard enough for it to matter. The magic they're looking for is in the work they're avoiding. And he said, wow. You know, they spend so much time looking for optimal exercises, reps, set number, frequency, volume, but hand position, time of day to train, knee sleeves, shoes, belts, etc. But they don't even push themselves through the pain. This is why suboptimal bros often look better than the optimal geeks.
That's a great post.
Because at the end of the day, and he said, like, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of the, you know, you'll get a science geek, I guess, as he's calling them in this post, and they'll say you cannot out-science hard fucking training over a long period of time. Right? So many PubMed warriors will point to impressive physiques who train like bros and wonder how they got there. You know, drugs and genetics aside, most of them just trained really, really hard for a really, really long period of time. And Nick, you just can't get away from it, you know? So that was just, I thought it was great. So I reposted it, and the amount of people that, like, you know, send you the thumbs up and the flames and shit.
Yeah.
Those posts went like nuts, you know?
That's cool. I feel like
what's missed. You know, I mean, when you really see that, that's the one thing I see in the gym. And I know you guys both do this. I have clients send me their training, and it's extremely rare on the first batch that I go, wow, yep, that's training.
Right.
It's very, very often that I'm like, you know, you had more. I had a guy argue with me a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was like, you had more. And he goes, and he sent back, he was like, no, I know I was cash. So I sent the video to Turner and Tommy and said, quick review of this, do me a favor. And they both were like, not even close. Not even close. Like, and Tommy, because he knows the Dante thing, he said, when it starts to hurt, Dante always says that's when the set starts. Like, prior to that, it doesn't fucking matter. The set starts when you hit that point, you start questioning, and he was racking it there. And it was nice, though, because I showed him those, and since then, every set has gotten a little closer. And finally, one day, he sent me a video, and I actually watched the hack squat bury him. He came, and it wasn't because his brain went out. He went down, he went up, he went up, he went, oh, fuck, and down. And I was like, there, now you know how to train.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
I got a client who trains really hard, and I hadn't gotten a video from him for a while. And I go, hey, send me a video. I want to see how training's going. And he sent me a video of him doing, it was like 5-plate deadlifts. And it was like extremely savage set, you know, where he got like 6 nonstop, and then he like grinded out 3 or 4 more, just agonizing reps where he kept his form, but the pulls were just like, you know, 1 mile an hour, and he just kept grinding out these reps. And I was like, Jesus Christ. And I just replied, oh, you're all good to go, I guess. Like,
thanks for the show.
I don't need to see the side laterals if the deadlift video looks like that.
Right.
I had 2 of those run this year that, like, they were first time clients, and I always ask, you know, within the first little bit, like, hey, shoot those over. And this one guy, he sends me 3 videos over. And I watched all 3, and I said back, all right, we're all good on training videos. If I ask for more, just say no.
Yeah. Say no.
We're good. You don't have to do that.
Yeah.
We're fine.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
All right.
What else you got, Scott?
Let's see here. You guys ever hear of a band called Trivium?
Yes.
He says,
I think they're like a really metal band, like really metal.
Yeah, he said, you ever heard of Trivium? It's a heavy metal band. Started listening to them about 6 months ago, and they quickly became my favorite band. Huh.
He's from Canada.
Recommending giving the album Shotgun a listen. A true masterpiece.
Shogun.
Oh, yes, Shogun. Which, who knows? They might have a record called Shotgun, too.
You can always tell where Scott's mind is.
Yeah, thinking about guns. But, yeah.
I like that you described the album as a masterpiece. That sounds like something that Ron would say.
It does.
2008. Shogun.
Huh.
I'll check it out. I think they're very metal.
Japanese restaurant.
I think they're
Shogun.
Yeah, I think they're like, you know, they might be a little too heavy for me, but I will check them out.
We also got a comment from Only Bodybuilding. He says, you should make a series called What Grinds My Gears, starring Ron Partlow. I think he's onto something there.
We should. You know that I like to do that to Ron in person?
Do you?
I do it all the time when we're at shows, and then George will see it. George is like basically is the athlete's rep. He'll walk over and he goes, did you just fucking tell him that just to get him going? I'm like, oh, yeah.
Give me an example. Can you think of one thing? Because you do it all the time immediately. Okay.
Yeah, no, I did it when we were when I came back from the bathroom in Dubai. I came up, and I think Ron might have been with someone. I fucking interrupted him. I'm like, there was a guy in the bathroom with no fucking shoes on. And
we talked about that here. That's right. What did he do?
I just let him roll.
Let me up.
The look of like disgust. Because I know Ron, because he's highly intelligent, he's going through in the mind because he's been in that bathroom. He knows how dirty it is. He knows there's shit water on the ground and all. I mean, and I just stood back and like nodded. You just kind of
stood back and watched my brain just take over all the different reasons why I was disgusted with that concept.
He texted me at 4 a.m. that night. I can't believe he was in bare feet. All right, that didn't happen, but it would be cool.
I've done similar stuff, Dusty. You've told me stuff to get me going, and then like an hour later, I've sent you like one word, you know, like disbelief. I mean, disbelief.
Oh, that's gold.
All right. I think we had a couple more here. There's a drug question. Let's see what Tim has to say. He says, question for the next show. I was thinking of going from TRT, 100 milligrams of Test E per week, to my first cycle, 200 to 250 milligrams of Test E per week. I am living in a country where doctors are very strict with prescriptions of Test. So I have got to get my blood levels tested every 3 to 4 months at my doctor's lab. Hence, I think I need to take into account 2 to 3 weeks to bring my levels back down. Would a 12-week cycle be worth it to put on 3 to 4 kilograms of muscle? What would be the minimum cycle length you would generally recommend?
Can we focus on the fact that he thinks he's putting on 4 kilograms of muscle in 12 weeks? Or do we skip that?
That's a lot. That's a lot. So going from 100 milligrams to 250 will definitely boost what he's doing, but you know that's still pretty that's a lot of gains for what he's looking to do.
Yeah.
So I'd have to know theoretically if he's on 100 mgs a week and his blood level comes back like top of normal, let's say.
Right.
Then I would say he stick to Cypionate. You wouldn't want to use Sustanon just because that can really stack up on you long term and linger. You know, that last ester that has a 28-day half-life or 21-day half-life on it, that would fuck you up. Because you'd probably test over high normal for 6 weeks after your last shot, monthly at least. You know, so and you know, even longer. So I would stick with just Cypionate or even Prop. And you know, you could do SIP for the first half of the cycle and switch to Prop at the last couple of weeks, I guess. And he could run right up to a month before he had to get his blood tested, or even 3 weeks if he's just using Prop, and just make sure he goes completely off, you know, for 3 weeks so that he can get a good number on the blood test. That would be what he'd have to do. But again, you know, everyone's different. If you're one of those guys that, you know, it's a little bit slower leaving your system or whatever, he's just got to know what he's doing. Is that good? How to violate medical advice?
Absolutely. I mean, here's the funny thing though. For real, with his goals, and knowing it sounds like you could actually get in some pretty good heat for this, you could put that muscle on with what you're doing. You know,
there's. I mean,
it sounds funny, but
what are you eating?
If it was my money and I was if it was me and I was in that predicament and I wasn't going to move,
I wouldn't mess it
I'd
up.
be like, okay, if I can tighten up the other areas, because that's something that, and I know Ron's big on this as well. If you really want someone to learn how to manipulate and put on muscle mass, take them off of everything. Make them do it with food and over-the-counter supplements, and when you start growing with that. When you put that 100 milligrams back in and you stick to that plan that you figured out works, there's those 2 to 3 kilos you were looking for.
So also don't know how
drugs hide mistakes, you know? So yeah, he is on,
let's say he's 40 though. If he comes off 100, he'll just be on 0 tests. So just
100 is 100. I mean, it is basically off if you're on that. But, you know, point being is you can put it on either way. I would just be nervous at a place that's that tight. I wouldn't want to lose. I guess here's what I'm saying. I wouldn't risk my 100 milligram prescription to try to rush some gains over 12 weeks that I could gain over 9 months without risking it.
Yeah.
Or here's another solution.
Move.
You can fucking move.
Yeah. Come to America.
America.
You know what? I think people often forget when they're trying to get back onto their TRT to do a doctor's lab analysis, whatever. I think that they forget about the other blood levels. So let's say you come back and now your hematocrit is through the roof. The doctor might look at that and be like, hey, you know what? Your TRT is messing up your hematocrit. We're going to have to bring that TRT level down. So there's, that possibility too. Maybe your cholesterol starts getting jacked up, There's that.
Estrogen is like
very good point.
He doesn't manage his estrogen, so his estrogen looks like super high.
Yeah. Oh, we got to back
like, oh my God, you've got
down.
a lot of aromatization happening for some reason,
Yeah.
So
I did like the idea if you were going to do it to run something shorter. But what about even a 6-week cycle? If he's got to check back in, in 3 months,
he could front load like 4 grams of sustanon.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
We're derailing really bad now.
All right.
Okay. Hey, don't say I didn't tell him the secret. Okay.
I think that might have been all I had here. And not saying that we didn't have more, but that's what I was able to find. So I think that was it.
That was good. I'm happy with that. That was good.
Agreed.
We did well, gentlemen. I even had a laugh.
It's good.
It was fun. I think that was episode 180. I think it's going to go up as number 180, which is kind of cool. We're closing in.
This will be the next one.
Bills.
We had a good topic, the Olympia stuff. So people will want to hear that. That'll be the next one. So prepare for the next episode, guys. It's going to be terrible. You won't like it.
Yeah. No effort at all. It's whatever we had left over. It's how Metallica released Load, and then like a year later they released Reload, and then you realize they actually recorded them both at the same time, and they were just the leftover tracks. Yeah,
the ones
that'll be the next episode.
Yeah. But for the hardcore fans who like B-sides,
there you go.
There you go.
Yeah, this is the B-side afterthought release next. Okay. Yeah. Okay, thanks everybody.
I just realized you said B-side.
Oh yeah. It's for those of you that don't know what a B-side is, it's when you flip the record or the tape, right?
Yeah.
Just there's people out there that might not know that.
Oh, I didn't realize people might not know that. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you never know, right? Okay, like, share, subscribe, comment.
Ring the bell one time.
Ring the bell
or 3
one time, or odd number times if you're OCD.
Yes.
And remember, IamMutant.com, North America, USA, and Canada. You can go on there and you can use Dusty20 or Big Ron 20 and get 20% off all your mutant stuff. Everyone knows how expensive protein is right now, so it's 20% off if you go on there. And they do have a big Black Friday thing going on. We do have to say that. Coming up.
Nice.
So look for that. And I'll see you gentlemen soon. Okay? Remember, everybody, like I said, it's just bodybuilding.